So I'm sure you guys have seen, but just the other day, a whole bunch of videos went up on YouTube from content creators and big places like IGN showcasing more of Hogwarts Legacy gameplay. Seems like they got to go hands-on with the game, kind of give their impressions, show gameplay itself. And in this video, I kind of want to go over a couple of things that I've noticed from those videos and sort of point out to you guys. And also talk about why I feel like I'm more hyped for this game now after seeing those than I was before. For starters, let's just talk about how the game looks for a second. It just looks even better than what I originally saw. The gameplay seems smooth. The voice acting and animations seem better in my opinion. I don't know if they didn't show them well in the last couple of things, and maybe some of them are just jankier than others. But they seem drastically improved to me. I was actually thinking like, did I get this wrong? Did the animations and voice acting, are they actually much better than I originally thought? So the fact that it seems better to me, even if it's only slightly better, is a big improvement, and I think that's going to add to my enjoyment of the game. And secondly, just looking at how the game plays, it seems to play smoothly. I'm setting aside performance for a second, but what I mean is the game seems to flow really well. Going from one activity, going into a dialogue, going into combat, it seems to flow really well. It seems natural. It seems seamless. And you don't get some like jarring transition or anything that pulls you out of the immersion of the game. And as I said in the other video, immersion seems to be such a huge part of this game for me. I imagine it is for other people. A lot of people are coming by saying like, the game doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be good, or it just has to pull me into that, wizarding world sort of feeling. And I feel like the more I see of this game, the more that seems to be true. There were so many gameplay reveals from different people who played. I didn't watch them all, and honestly, I tried to watch as little as I could because I didn't want to get too spoiled with the game myself. But just watching it, I mean, you just want to walk around and explore the areas of the game and see, what's available in the game world. And it just, like, the exploration it's just so top notch. Like, I feel like I just want to walk around and see every little detail of Hogwarts Castle, fly around in my broom, get different angles, and I can see just spending hours really not accomplishing a lot in the game. You know what I mean? Where you're just like doing things that really don't progress the game forward because you just want to spend time in the world. And I feel like that's a really, really good sign for this game. Another thing I want to say is that combat looks even better than I previously saw. Before, we didn't get to see too much combat, we just got to see very specific clips. Now seeing it kind of in an unedited form where people are just showing the entire combat scenario and different scenarios where they're using different spells and different encounters. I definitely think it's more dynamic than I originally thought. It looks like it plays fluidly, it looks like it's easy to use. After playing Forspoken, which had like really good combat, like there's other issues with that game, but the combat of that game was really good. I feel like this game's probably going to be on par with that in terms of combat. That actually makes me really excited. I was watching the combat and I was like, actually, I think I'm going to get excited to get into combat in this game, which is not something that I really thought I would be or was expecting to be, but it actually looks really exciting and I can't wait to like get in and use spells and throw them. And I think it just looks even better. I don't know. Also, a lot more spells were showcased that players were using, and it seems to give a lot of variety to what the player can do. They can stealth up on enemies, they can throw them off cliffs, they can attack them in different ways, and it just seems like it's going to have a lot of variety in the ways you can do things. Again, with the customization that I mentioned in the previous video, being able to change the traits of your spells and like their duration and their effects via your equipment and stuff like that is really going to change up the way the spells function. And I can't wait to see how that pans out in terms of like your style of play as a wizard or witch. Another thing you're going to notice as you watch through the different gameplays is that the performance seems very good. Like, there's no stutters, you don't notice anything like that. Graphically, the game looks good, the frame rate looks pretty good. It's hard to say exactly how it'll be through the entire game since we have just a snippet. But so far, the performance of the game, which I think was a huge consideration for people, looks really good. And that makes me really excited. I plan to play the game on PS5 probably because of all the different pre-order bonuses I mentioned in the previous video. But I think that looks really good. I think it's going to play well with the SSD on there. The load time should be really good. I think if you're playing this game on PS5 or probably Xbox Series X, I think it's going to play phenomenally. Piggybacking off that, though, this leads me to the next point, and this is kind of a glaring point for me. Unless I'm mistaken, I did not see any PC gameplay shown. All the gameplay I saw was PS5. I didn't see any Xbox gameplay, which maybe there was somebody had some Xbox. But I didn't see any PC gameplay, unless they're playing on PC with a PlayStation 5 controller. I didn't see any PC gameplay at all, and that really makes me wonder how the performance of this game is going to play on PC. Admittedly, I could be wrong. There could be some PC gameplay footage out there, but just about all the big channels wholeheartedly advertise that they're playing on PS5. This makes me really, really worried about PC. Typically, when you see games promoted before launch, people are typically using PC builds because usually that plays the best. You get better graphics, better performance on a top-end PC than you're going to get for a console. If you're getting better performance on a console and you want people to show it on a console, typically that means the PC performance isn't as good. Otherwise, you'd be showing PC. So again, maybe I'm wrong here. I don't 100% know, but if you just look over all the big channels, most of them advertise wholeheartedly that it's PS5 gameplay. And we do know that the PC version of the game is going to use Denuvo, which is a DRM copyright protection. And in my experience, just about every single game that uses some sort of copyright protection like that slows the game down tremendously. You saw this in Elden Ring, for instance. This was the first time they used an anti-cheat software, and the performance on PC was actually worse than it was on console at launch. So I'm really suspicious that the PC performance of this game, potentially because they're using this, DRM software in the game, will be a problem. There have actually been a few games in recent memory, like Rise of the Tomb Raider and Monster Hunter World, that actually had this software in their PC version of the game at launch, but then later removed it because of so much complaints. I would expect this is probably going to be the case with Hogwarts Legacy as well, simply because they probably want to get the sale at the launch of the game, and once they've probably figured enough people have bought it, they'll probably remove it because they'll be less worried about pirating after they've already got those sales. Another thing you really notice when you're watching the gameplay is how you interact with the environment. Like there's this part where someone's like repairing a bridge, and you're picking up things and doing puzzles on the landscape, and it's not like you're just in a playground and you're doing things in the playground. It seems like your decisions and the things you do really affect the game world, which again adds to that immersion that I was talking about earlier. So I'm really happy to see that that's happening in the game as well, and I can't wait to see like what sort of impacts you can make on the game. It's possible that you maybe make some decisions in the game that will change things permanently one way or another, and I think that's really interesting. It gives replay value to the game, and it also makes your playthrough play a little bit more special, in my opinion, because not everyone is going to have the exact same experience. And another thing we learned from the gameplay shown is that you cannot play Quidditch, so that's unfortunate. I was kind of looking forward to playing that in this game. Haven't really heard much talk about it, but playing Quidditch would have been great in my opinion. I don't know if you guys played that old Harry Potter Quidditch game, but that was a lot of fun. That would have added like a mini game inside this game. Maybe over time that will be added to the game. I expect this game to get content updates like that since, it's probably a huge endeavor to create this big world and all this stuff in it. And I don't think they're going to try and create another one. You know what I mean? I don't think you're going to see a Hogwarts Legacy 2, or maybe you will someday. But I would expect over the next couple years, you're probably just going to see content updates adding more and more to the game, more expansions, things like that. Taking this world and really building upon it, adding to it so that, a couple years from now, it's an even better version of the game. Also, we found out that you can swim. I didn't know swimming would be part of this game. It never occurred to me after seeing the broom exploration walking around, but I guess you probably want to swim in the lake at some point and explore that. So that's another thing that's really cool to this game. Adds even more immersion. You're going into that lake, checking things out. Just another cool thing they added to the game. It was like when you discovered that you could swim in Sekiro, that was something that was not expected at all, I think, from anyone. And it's definitely not something I expected in this game for some reason, but it totally makes sense. Another thing you'll notice from the gameplay is that you finally get to see some examples of puzzles and how they operate, and I think they're really unique in this game the way they did them, because you're obviously using magic when that's involved, and you're not just getting this typical pick a lock, which you've seen in 100 RPGs, which is kind of boring at this point. But now you're seeing different interactions with different spells, allowing you to solve different puzzles in different ways, and it's just really interesting and unique in my opinion. And I think probably the last thing that's most telling about most of these, if you guys have seen the other gameplay and people that have commentary, is that everyone seems to have loved the game. If you listen to any of the commentary from any of the videos, almost everyone just says it flew by, they wanted to keep playing, there was more to it, and that's always a good sign in my opinion. And that's what I'm seeing when I look at the gameplay too. I look at a game that you pick up on Friday night and you just binge play until 4 in the morning, and then you wake up, eat breakfast, start playing, and you just get lost. And those games are so few these days. It has been, I think the last game that really did that to me was Midnight Suns, and that's just because the gameplay, the combat of that game was so good. But beyond that, it's been a really long time, probably since Elden Ring, where a game pulled me in so much that I just couldn't stop playing it. And these are really rare. And I think the fact that you're seeing that is pretty much a consensus in the early impressions of the game is quite amazing. And if you're concerned well, I don't know how it's going to play through the whole game, there's always that. But the fact that after 2 hours you want to keep playing more, that is such a good sign in my opinion. I think it would be a lot more alarming if that weren't the case. So that kind of wraps up the things we learned. I think people should be more hyped for this game, except possibly PC players for the reason I mentioned. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Have seeing the gameplay making you more excited? I'm seeing people in comments saying they watched it and now they really want to play. I feel like this was a good move by Warner Brothers getting this gameplay out there. I mean, a lot of this is like just raw gameplay people have put up. You know, it's not edited to be some deceptive trailer. It's just gameplay, and it looks better than what they've shown before. In my opinion, I think content creators have done a better job of showcasing the game. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below.